This video is brought to you by Bitbox NES game cases. There is no better way to protect, store, and show off your NES game collection. Only available at stoneagegamer.com/bitbox. Skip it up and that up. Oh, Sony, man. Yeah. I don't know why this is not being talked about on mainstream sites as much as it should be. A lot of you guys have sent me a crap load of articles wanting me to talk about Sony's financial woes, so now I am. Sony has announced that for the fiscal year ending in March 31st, 2014, they're going to lose $1.1 billion. And Kaz Hirai is going to be cutting 5,000 jobs. And there are rumors that they're selling their PC business and television business. Well, television business, I don't know if they're selling, but I know that I read an article that they're in talks with someone to purchase the Vio PC business, which I think is a good move because Sony's PCs have never caught fire. They've always been overpriced, and I used to sell them way back in the day and even recently too, and people just kind of stayed away from them. God, there was a time, man, when Sony was the de facto. When I was growing up, when I was a kid in the 80s and when I was growing up in the 90s, it was Sony everything. Like, Sony was the first brand you went to. I mean, there was like Panasonic too, and Sanyo, and I'm trying to think off of other brands off the top of my head. But Sony was the first brand. When you thought of TVs, you went to Sony. Sony Trinitron. You know, for you old dudes out there like me, Sony Trinitron. When you wanted to get like a boombox, yes, they were called boomboxes. Now they call them compact stereos, and they're barely even made anymore. When you wanted a boombox with a CD player, you got Sony. When you wanted a portable compact cassette player, who'd you get? You got Walkman. Sony was synonymous with, that's what made Sony pretty much, was Walkmans. And there was a time where you just went to get I remember in 1993 when the mini disc player first came out. I remember I got it as a graduation present. I was a nerd even as I was 12 years old getting mini disc players. And I got the first one. I think it was the MZ1. I'm thinking of this off the top of my head if I have the model number wrong. It was the first mini disc player, and Sony only had a portable one, the first one that when it came out, and it was a recorder too. And I remember being and that was a mind to me, okay, mini disc never really blew up, but it had a long go, and it was an exciting product. And that's what you went to see. You got these cutting edge, exciting products from Sony. And I remember, my family in 1995, I was 14, I was just graduating 8th grade, and they got a Sony, we got a big screen, a rear projection big screen TV from Sony because it had the best picture out there. Sony was it, man, when it came to tech. And I feel like, and this is just from personal experience, I feel like when everything kind of went digital, Sony lost their edge. Like when the iPod first came out and MP3s, I feel like they had their heads stuck in the 90s, and people like Apple were forward thinking. And it always seemed like ever since then, Sony has never been able to be the company. They never made those products that you really desired like they did back in the 80s and 90s. And it sucks, man, because I really, times change, and I'm glad to see that Kaz is like, hey, computers are a lump on our side, TVs. I mean, even a few years ago, if you think about it, I remember reading articles, and I would see it because I would work for HP and go into Best Buy. Sony would have like 20 different TVs. So, and on top of it too, they have 80 different brands to compete with. So not only are they doing a cannibalistic business move by having so many different models of TVs with small variances or variables in features, which is a cannibalistic move that confuses people, you now have 1 billion different brands selling TVs, and even if the Sony's picture quality on theirs is better, someone's like, okay, this Sony for $1,000, or you get this Vizio for $300. I'd rather pocket the $700 and deal with slightly worse picture quality, And I'm glad to see that they're restructuring. Times change, they missed the boat with a lot of different things, and they didn't catch on to the whole, like Sony should have been the one with the iPod, in my opinion, but they dropped the ball on it. Now they need to restructure. PlayStation's doing great. It's a complete one. They did a complete 180 with the PS4 launch than what they did with the god-awful launch of the PS3. Get rid of those lumps, man. Get rid of those things that are not selling. Don't have that pride, like kind of like what Nintendo's doing now. I mean, Nintendo has a lot more money in the bank, but I that could change if they keep going the route they're going. Get rid of your pride, Sony. I understand you were the de facto company to go to for all electronics, but you screwed up some things. Restructure, reorganize. I hate seeing people losing their jobs, but if this is what needs to be done to see Sony survive, then so be it, and just become a mobile gaming and movie company. Maybe that'll be what your bread and butter is. We'll see. All right, guys, make sure to rate, comment, favorite, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for supporting Review Tech USA. Have a good one.